Concerns regarding the conduct of a prominent public figure during official duties have long been acknowledged by those within diplomatic circles, a sentiment now echoed more broadly following subsequent revelations. A former diplomat, reflecting on multiple encounters over a career, indicated that early interactions with the former Prince Andrew suggested an unconventional approach engagement. The initial meeting in Lisbon, where the then naval officer was present at the embassy, saw him display a noticeable self-assurance. During a private dinner involving a small group, the individual recounted an incident where the former Prince Andrew made an unexpected accusation towards the diplomat's wife, attributing it schoolboy humour. This occurred during a period when the diplomat's wife bore a resemblance Sarah Ferguson, and the former Prince Andrew was believed to be experiencing marital difficulties, rendering the situation somewhat awkward in front of other guests. It was observed that when the principal figure found amusement in his own remarks, others often felt compelled to acquiesce. While there were early indications of behaviour that deviated from conventional royal comportment, the diplomat, lacking extensive prior experience with members of the royal family, described being somewhat taken aback by these actions. The appointment of Prince Andrew, a position promoting British trade around London, though unsalaried, was entirely expenses paid. 9 years following the initial encounter, in 2002, he had assumed the role of international envoy for trade for Britain, having been appointed the preceding year. During this period, the diplomat served as deputy ambassador at the British Embassy in Bahrain, responsible for organising the former Prince Andrew's visits and accompanying him numerous engagements. Many within the Foreign Office initially welcomed his appointment, anticipating that his royal status would facilitate access, particularly within the Gulf region where interactions between royal families are highly valued. There was an expectation that Prince Andrew would perform effectively in this capacity. However, difficulties began manifest almost immediately. The embassy started receiving extensive directives concerning his dietary preferences, stipulating that he consumed neither alcohol, tea, nor coffee, opting instead for still water served at room temperature without ice. A particularly unusual observation, not encountered during any other royal visit, which typically proceeded without incident, was the apparent apprehension among his staff. Unlike the typical pride and contentment exhibited by private secretaries or team members working for senior royals on foreign trips, Prince Andrew's staff consistently appeared uncomfortable, navigating situations with meticulous care, seemingly fearful of missteps. This palpable tension inevitably extended the embassy personnel responsible for arrangements, who also found themselves proceeding with extreme caution. Despite his designation as a special trade representative credited with assisting Britain in securing deals valued at millions of pounds, the expenditures associated with his travel frequently attracted more scrutiny. A significant challenge inherent in his role as UK trade envoy was the disparity between its technically unpaid nature and the substantial costs incurred by his accompanying personnel, all of whom required remuneration. He often declined to utilise commercial flights, even first class, instead preferring the use of a private aircraft from the Queen's flight. Furthermore, he would not accept accommodation at the ambassador's residence, which was provided free of charge, insisting instead on staying in the most luxurious hotel on the island, specifically the royal suite at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Bahrain. His entourage also proved to be considerably larger than anticipated, comprising not only a private secretary but also an equerry, 2 lady clerks, whose exclusive responsibility was drafting thank you letters, one of whom was undergoing on-the-job training, 2 police officers and a valet. This valet was noted for carrying a 6-foot ironing board, an item whose presence was unknown until its arrival and subsequent entanglement in the revolving door of the 5-star Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Bahrain. When questioned about the necessity of this item, the valet explained that it was routinely carried because he was the sole individual capable of properly ironing His Royal Highness's trousers, a revelation described as insane given the caliber of the hotel. These logistical complexities often preceded the commencement of official visits. Furthermore, a considerable amount of what was termed downtime was scheduled, a phenomenon not typically observed during other royal visits handled by the diplomat. While brief intervals between significant meetings were customary, Prince Andrew's schedule often included half-day periods of unexplained inactivity, with the embassy explicitly informed that its involvement was not required. The former Prince Andrew also demonstrated a keen interest in Formula One. During a subsequent visit Bahrain, he extended his stay to attend the inaugural Formula One meeting, which spanned a long weekend, with his family reportedly joining him separately for this event. Such instances of appending personal activities expenses paid official visits contributed the increasingly excessive cost of his role, for which a comprehensive breakdown was never provided. While assertions were made regarding the substantial financial benefits his trade role brought His Majesty's government, a consistent analysis of these claims remained elusive. His primary function was undersod involved straightforward engagements such as handshakes, promotional activities, and smiling, yet he frequently appeared adopt an opposing demeanour. Even during formal engagements, his conduct often proved disruptive. At a meeting with the King of Bahrain, where the principal subject was the potential sale of British Hawk aircraft to the Bahraini authorities, he unexpectedly diverged from the agenda, questioning the desire to purchase the planes and suggesting leasing them instead. This unsolicited intervention caused considerable astonishment among all present, as such an alternative, while technically feasible, was not an appropriate offer in that context. On another occasion, he was scheduled to address the British Business Forum, an assembly of senior British businessmen on the island and several Gulf Arab counterparts. However, he refused to stand and deliver his speech, an act described as unbelievable. Despite the ambassador's plea for him offer a few words, he insisted that the ambassador was the appropriate speaker. He then reluctantly agreed to answer a limited number of questions, but the entire room remained in an uncomfortable silence. A similar incident occurred at a garden party, where a small receiving line comprising senior figures from the British community and heads of various societies in Bahrain had been pre-arranged with his team. After shaking the diplomat's hand, just as introductions the other agreed individuals were about to be made, he abruptly proceeded in the garden to engage with other guests. While the diplomat initially attributed such behaviour a momentary deviation or a possible state of agitation on that specific visit, subsequent discussions later that year at a meeting of deputy ambassadors from across the Gulf region confirmed that similar incidents had occurred during every single visit locations including Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Oman, Qatar and Kuwait. He consistently failed to adhere the established programme and neglected to review his brief, raising doubts about whether he had even read the preparatory materials for these meetings. This pervasive sense of self-importance and perceived privilege was described as shocking, leading some officials privately refer his visits with the moniker His Buffoon Highness. The prospect of Prince Andrew undertaking another visit their respective territories was widely dreaded due to the numerous complications his presence entailed. Later, in India, while the diplomat was responsible for the Consulate General in Calcutta, covering eastern India, the former Prince Andrew exhibited the same characteristic attitude. He did deliver a speech in Bombay at a significant awards ceremony attended by leading Indian businessmen, but his delivery was noted as being remarkably uninspired. Following this, and entirely outside the official programme, he made an unscheduled departure from the event to attend a private party hosted by Mr. Ambani, one of India's wealthiest individuals, without any prior notification his team or the embassy. Despite widespread awareness of his uncontrolled behaviour, he was not subjected to appropriate controls, which was identified as a core issue. There appeared to be a lack of accountability for Foreign Service personnel. Documenting such egregious impropriety in official communications back the Foreign Office posed a significant risk to their careers. The remarkable aspect was his longevity in the role, serving for 9 or 10 years despite numerous reported irregularities. This raised questions about why the government did not intervene earlier, with the prevailing sentiment suggesting a reluctance unduly displeased the royal family and a general atmosphere of deference. Further questions arose concerning other aspects of his visits, particularly his private time, during which it subsequently appeared he may have been engaged in personal business arrangements. Although this was not known at the time, on one occasion during a visit to Bahrain, He was accompanied by a female business advisor who attended all meetings but never spoke, leaving her specific role and purpose unclear. Her presence at all royal events, however, suggested a potential advisory capacity regarding business opportunities. Another surprising issue surfaced during a reconnaissance visit preceding Prince Andrew's first official trip Bahrain in 2002. His private secretary discreetly informed the diplomat that the sale of Sunninghill Park, a sprawling mansion gifted by the Queen upon his marriage Sarah Ferguson, might be raised. The property had been on the market for an extended period, priced between 10 and 12 million, without attracting a buyer. The diplomat considered the prospect of discussing a private property sale during an official visit be unorthodox. As later became public knowledge, the property was eventually sold for 3 million above its asking price. Individuals of questionable background from Central Asia, with the transaction handled by a prominent London law firm. This raised significant concerns regarding due diligence and the apparent absence of red flags that would typically be scrutinized in such a transaction, particularly when funds originated from regions like Kazakhstan. Upon taking early retirement from the Foreign Office in 2010, the diplomat was contacted by a journalist aware of his dealings with Prince Andrew, requesting an account of his experiences. He subsequently compiled a detailed report. His primary concern was the belief that Prince Andrew's actions were compromising the standing of the monarchy, and that officials were failing bring his conduct under proper governance. This issue, he felt, necessitated urgent attention. In light of subsequent developments, the diplomat expressed satisfaction at having his earlier judgments confirmed. While he initially received ambiguous commendations, many individuals have since come forward, asserting that they had long been aware of these issues, yet no one had voiced concerns at the time. More recently, it has emerged that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, while serving as a UK trade envoy, reportedly shared confidential information with Jeffrey Epstein. The diplomat, like many others, expressed profound disquiet upon discovering through the Epstein files that Prince Andrew had been forwarding government documents Epstein, often with remarkable speed upon their receipt. Such activities were not evident the diplomat at the time, but subsequent suspicions have suggested this pattern occurred during numerous visits. The revelation that various visit reports, which are private documents and should not be disclosed third parties, let alone an individual of Epstein's background, were leaked him, constituted a considerable shock. These documents may have provided Jeffrey Epstein with a financial advantage in his complex and often clandestine financial transactions. While the financial implications for Prince Andrew remain undetermined, the entire sequence of events is considered highly dubious and unsettling. One is led conclude that the relationship between the two individuals was exceptionally close. Prince Andrew was reportedly attracted the opulent lifestyle Epstein could provide, characterized by private jets, private islands, and immense wealth, the origins of which were themselves questionable. This situation, however, ultimately reflects upon Prince Andrew's discernment. His involvement with such an individual was widely perceived as a profoundly ill-advised decision and a grave error in judgment. Ultimately, the underlying motivation is strongly believed to be linked to financial arrangements, prompting calls for a thorough investigation in this aspect. The arrest of Jeffrey Epstein was met with widespread astonishment, including by the diplomat, who felt a sense of shock that the situation had finally reached this critical juncture. A prevailing sentiment was that these outcomes could have been averted had appropriate action been taken based on information available approximately 10 years prior. Further revelations are anticipated as a police investigation is underway, with the diplomat not privy all the specific details under examination. While one cannot help but feel a degree of sorrow for an individual who has experienced such a precipitous decline, it is largely viewed as a self-inflicted predicament. Individuals whose misconduct is eventually uncovered often face a significant fall from grace, which is now unfolding. This narrative represents a deeply unfortunate chapter for the royal family, acknowledging that each family may contend with a problematic member. In this instance, the bad apple is considered have been a persistent and systemic problem for a considerable duration, making the delay in addressing it all the more surprising. The consequences faced are largely seen as inevitable, as there was a perception that he believed he could evade accountability indefinitely, with his behavior frequently appearing be beyond control. There is a hope that a comprehensive investigation will uncover the full truth and provide a sense of closure this distressing episode.